Hello everybody, hello. So this is a pillar card that I saw Mitosu Crafts do and I just thought, oh, I like that. So this is the card and they called it the ultimate pillar card and I just think it's really nice. So I've used on this one my cozy crochet. Now this one I'm actually going to do slightly different. So I've done it exactly how they did it. So that's like that. But on my sample, I did it slightly differently. So this is my sample. So I haven't got any mats and layers and stuff on it. But on the sample, what I did was on the back, I put a piece of card across the back, which means they're all level with the back. But actually, it makes it a lot more stable. So when it folds down like that, it makes it a lot more stable. It won't fit in a 5x7 envelope. Bear with me, I'm working on one that will. This measures about 8 3/4 by 6. So 6 by 8 3/4. So I think it will fit into an A5 envelope. But it's a lot more stable and sturdy having it all attached at the back. And I quite like the look from the front. So that's the way we're going to be doing it today. Right, so you need one piece, which is 6 inches by 9.5. Along the 9.5, you're going to measure and score at 2 1/4, 4 1/2, 6 3/4, and 9. Right, and then you need 2 pieces that are 6 by 6.5, and along the 6.5 side, you're going to score at 1 1/2, at 3, at 4 1/2, and at 6. I've put all these measurements in the description below already. And then you want 2 pieces that are 4 by 4.5, and along the 4.5 inch edge, you're going to score every inch. So you're scoring at 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the same on this one. Okie doke. So that is that done. You are also going to need some more pieces. You're going to need a piece of base card that is, for this one, that is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and another piece that's 4 by 7 1/4. And I'm pretty sure that's right. We'll find out when we make it, but I think that's right. And then we'll go through the mats. But before we do that, let's stick these cubes together. So, right. Just going to fold and burnish all of my lines. Okay, red tape and scissors. You can use wet glue if you want. I'm just going to go ahead and add some red tape on the top of all of these tabs. And then you're just going to peel it off. And I always stick mine flat. And I've discovered that it doesn't always work, but if you fold just the tab over and then fold the whole thing kind of in half and stick it flat that way, quite often your ends kind of go together better and you don't end up with overlap. Yeah, so that's not been too bad. Let me do this one. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to look at the back and just make sure that my tab is like where my join is, it's not at the front. So that's kind of a good way, and it folds down that way, which is fine. I'm going to make sure they all kind of fold this way. My tab bit is there, so I'm going to put that one there. My tab is there, so that can go here, and then these, one can go there and one can go there. So what we're going to do now is decorate. Okay, so that's the way they're going to stick together. If you imagine them all kind of smushed together, that's how they're going to stick together. But let's decorate first before we do any more with assembling. So for the middle piece, you're going to need one piece of mat that is 2 inches by 5 3/4, and the pattern is 1 3/4 by 5.5. Then on these 2 outside ones, you are going to need 2 pieces that are 1 1/4 by 5 3/4 for the mat, and the pattern is 1 inch by 5.5. And then on these little pieces here, the tiny pieces, you're going to need two. Now I've done this slightly different because I've done 1/4 of an inch difference for the mats and layers for the middle and the two outside. But then this one, I've made the border slightly smaller because it's a smaller piece anyway. Otherwise you end up with a half an inch width of pattern. But to be honest, I don't think it's that noticeable because it's smaller anyway. It doesn't really matter. So the mat on this is 7/8 by 3 7/8, and the pattern is 3/4 by 3 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these on to their relevant posts, as it were, pillars. Right, so I've put all my bits and pieces on there. Now then, if I just move this out of the way, this big piece at the back that connects every bit is 4 inches by 7 1/4, and then I've put a white piece on, and I've done this white piece wrong. So you need to go for 3 3/4 by 7 for your white piece. I did mine wrong, but anyway, it's because it was a last minute .gone kind of a decision. Let me go ahead and stamp a greeting on it. Okay, so the way I did it before, when I did my sample, so I took the main one, turned it over, so you've got the back, and then I found halfway. So this measures 4 inches tall, which is the same as your pillars. So, well, it's just slightly, is that slightly more? See, this is one thing I would check, is just check the height of your pillars against this piece of card, just to make sure you're not going to be too high. No, that's fine. Cool. Right, so this is 4 inches and this is 6. So it means I'm going to come in 1 inch down here and 1 inch in here. And I'm just going to make a mark on the back, 1 inch down from the top and 1 inch up from the bottom, because that will give me a kind of registration lines for where I need to stick this piece of card. The other thing I'm going to do is measure halfway. So 2 1/4 is 1 1/8. So 1 1/8, just going to make a little mark there. And again, along this bottom section, 1 1/8, make a little mark there. You don't have to do this. If you want to eye it, you can. Or if you want to stick this onto your outside one first and then head across. My thought process for not doing that was that it would be better if this was central and then you add everything else on. And if you end up with these going slightly over, it doesn't matter. But at least they'll be over on both sides. So that was my thought process as to why I'm doing it this way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find halfway on this, which is 3 1/2 plus an 8, so 3 5/8. Make a tiny little mark at the top there, and a tiny little mark at the bottom here. And then when you stick this on the back, your little halfway mark can line up with the registration mark you've made there, top and bottom. And then as long as you stick it so that it's within your little 1 inch top and bottom marks, hopefully it should be okay. We will see. Right, so I'm just going to line my little pencil marks up like this. This is when you really do need to make sure you are measuring properly. So like that. And then I'm going to stick that down. See, that looks wonky to me, but I don't think it is. I think it's just my brain telling me it's wonky. You'll soon find out. So that should be halfway. And I've used wet glue. So I've got 2 1/2 on this side and I've got 2 1/2 on that side. So it's actually straight. Good. Okay. So that is that. So I'm going to turn this over now. And I'm going to start with the little pillars either side. So this one here. And what we want to do is put glue on this side here, this right hand side, and also on the back at the same time. So we're going to put some glue on here and some glue on the back. Now I would advise using wet glue rather than red tape for this. You can use red tape, but it's just that you need to, once you stick it, it's stuck. So at least with glue, you've got a bit of time to wiggle them. Right, so then with it upright, I'm going to line it up and get it so that it's top and bottom onto that back piece. And then we're going to stick it to there, and I'm just going to fold it down flat, give it a bit of a burnish, and then let's just There we go, like that, and then just give it a bit of a... You don't want to go too thick with your card on this. The sample card I made was about a 230 GSM roughly, and it coped all right, so it still folds flat and everything. This one's about a 200, I believe, maybe a 220, 200, 220, something like that. But as you can see, your pillars, your small pillars, are literally the height of that back piece. So with this end one, what I'm going to do is instead of putting it on the pillar, I'm actually going to put it on the ones we've stuck already. So I'm just going to glue on the side of this box here, like this, and also glue on this piece here, which should be the right size for your pillar. And then what we need to do is stand this up, bring your pillar in, because you want them to be level. If you do it lying down, you run the risk of them not being level, in which case you'll have, you know, it'll be too high and stuff like that. So once you've got it in, once you've got it level, you can then just go ahead and squash it flat once you kind of got it in the right place. Right, so that's that. And then we're going to repeat the process over here. So again, on this one, instead of doing it on the right hand side, we're going to do it on the left hand side and the back. And I'm actually going to do it on the pillar. I'm going to glue the pillar rather than the card, because this is the right size, so I'm going to worry about doing too much. Just put my top on. So that's going to go in here like that. There we go. And I'm just going to get it so it kind of is sticking first, and then I'll squash it down. Make sure, because the thing is, I'm using wet glue. If I don't get it sort of more or less stuck down and I squish it flat, it could move. So we want to just make sure it's in the right place. Yeah, that looks good. And then with the last one, I am going to stick it and put the glue on the side of the little pillar, and then also on this back section here. And once we're happy, we can fold it down and stick it into place. If it looks like it's uneven at all, you can kind of straighten it up. You need to make sure your work surface is even as well, is level. Otherwise you could end up with it being wonky. And there we have it. So that's your card base done. And I definitely prefer this with the back piece. It just makes it so much more, because if you move one column, the whole lot moves. Whereas with the other one, they're kind of a bit independent. So yeah, definitely prefer the back. And I just think as well, you get a lot more space to write on. So look at that. Just, it looks, yeah, I think it's got more presence. So I'm happy with that. Right, so then we just need to decorate. So on the front, I've got a square piece of base, which is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. The mat's 3.5 by 3.5, and then the pattern is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And it's going to go on the angle like that, because I think this is how Barry did it, and I just think it makes more sense. It gives it a lot more presence to it. And so I know where to glue. I am going to flip it over like that, and then I'm just going to add some glue up here, because I can see where my lines are then. I think this is quite a good card for a man's card, because it's kind of, I think it's good for both, but you know, like people ask you, oh, how do you know, masculine cards. This is one of those cards that works both ways, because you saw with the cozy crochet one that I did. But I just think, and also if you look at the one that Barry did on Mitosu, it was really nice, floral. It's just really pretty. But I think as well, it's one of those cards that really does lend itself to masculine cards, because I don't know if it's just because of the cube, like the chunkiness of it. I'm not sure, but it just, to me, it's like it shouts out, you know, it just shouts out masculine. Right, so that's that. So now I need to cut some bits out. So let me grab my bonus page. there we have it. Bye.